This is Ford's new Ranger XLT with the Tremor package. What we have here is a Ranger that has been lifted and improved for off-road performance. Does it have what it takes to conquer our test hill? We'll find out right now on Driving Sports TV. If you're shopping for a truck with off-road capability, the Ford Ranger Tremor might just be the one you're looking for. Our test vehicle arrived in Super Crew XLT trim with a 5-foot box and 4-wheel drive. Because this is a Tremor package, it has standard leaf springs in the back, but the front are upgraded to Fox off-road rated monotubes with 6.5 inches of travel. Wheels are 17-inch alloys wrapped in 32-inch Continental General Grabber ATX trail tires. It also has skid plates to protect the underside. Ground clearance is increased over the standard Ranger by 0.8 inches up to 9.7. The Tremor treatment also means it has updated styling inside and out. Prices you see it here with several options, $43,875 US including destination. Under the hood is a 2.3-liter EcoBoost 4-cylinder that produces up to 270 horsepower and 310 pound-feet of torque. This is connected to a 10-speed automatic transmission and standard 4-wheel drive with an electronic locking rear differential. EPA rates economy of the setup at 19 in the city and 19 on the highway as well. The lower bumper includes easy access for recovery hooks. Payload maxes out at 1,430 pounds, with towing capped at 7,500. Drop the gate to access the 5-foot box. This has been treated with a spray and liner. It also includes hooks for tie-downs, and thanks to an extended rear bumper, it is fairly easy to step into. Now let's take a look at the inside. The second row doubles both as seating as well as extra storage that is secured in the cabin. Plus we have 2 bins down here for even more stuff. Climb on in. It's a little on the snug side, but it's doable. There's a cutout in the seat here which allows for my knees. I'm 6'1", legs torso proportionate, and I fit pretty good actually. I just don't have a lot of extra room. Down here I do get 2 USBs as well as an AC socket, but no vents. And right here I have an armrest with integrated cup holders. Okay, super tall. In we go. Right, so push button? No, it doesn't have a push button. I have to use a key. Now, some people would argue that the key doesn't wear or is more reliable in some way than a push-button start. I would love to see the numbers on that because in my brain, that doesn't make any sense. I mean, here, you're still dealing with an electronic ignition, but you're adding the element of twisting a physical locker unit, whereas a push-button is a single throw, but it's still triggering the same electronic starter. So it seems like this is actually the more complicated option. Anyway, I'd love to see numbers on that. So let's go ahead and start it up. Just looking at this truck, there's not a lot to identify it as a Tremor edition, but there are a couple things. First off, we have the stitching on the seats, the embroidery that says Tremor, and then we also have this switch gear up here, which comes on the Tremor package. Now this is for auxiliary hardware should you ever want to add it. That's like adding a winch. It's like adding a winch, not a wench. And also you can add auxiliary lighting and all that kind of stuff. The gauge cluster is a combination analog gauges on the side with a color multifunction in the middle. I can go through the different options here. Odometer, speed, fuel economy, driver assist. So as far as driver assistance stuff, that's all handled in the gauge cluster here. And we have blind spot, cross traffic, adaptive cruise control with lane keep, pre-collision, trailer sway, cross traffic alerts, and blind spot warning. So all the stuff you would expect in a modern truck is available on this Ranger. We also get drive modes. If I hit TM, I get terrain modes, and those switch between the different functions. Now, the one thing you will notice is that it's not doing anything to this center display. The main display here doesn't have a lot of tight integration with the vehicle itself. It's mostly infotainment and navigation, but it does have Sirius XM and terrestrial, as well as Bluetooth. Can do climate control. Moving along, we have Bluetooth phone integration, and we have navigation. Now let's go ahead and do a search. Let's see, let's look for voice command. Find the nearest Cafe Vita.
Please say a line number or say none of those.
Yep, none of those. I want to shortcut this off.
My mistake. What was the name you're looking for?
I want to do it again. Search for the nearest Cafe Ladro.
Please say a line
Hey, it found it. It got 50% right out of 2 options. This is, of course, based on Sync 3. You can get Sync 4 in some of their newer vehicles. This is not that. Go ahead and cancel route. Yes, yes. And then, of course, because this is 2021, there are apps where you can download stuff, like they have the Sirius XM Travel Link, and then settings. Here is where you control all of the kind of infotainment-oriented stuff. So there's Wi-Fi, vehicle settings in terms of screens and stuff. And you can also modify the display if you want it to be dark, light, all that kind of stuff. And of course, we do have one more thing. This supports both Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. Now, there is no wireless support here. The guts of this truck are not modern enough to have that as an option, I guess. Plug it in, continue, agree, Apple CarPlay.
Where would you like to go?
Find the nearest Cafe Vita.
The closest one I see is Cafe Vita on Bellevue Way Northeast in Bellevue.
And there you go. Oh, do you know what's really good? Here's one that's really good, but only for their mochas. This is what I would go here for. Find the nearest Cafe Dilettante. Oh yeah, dark mocha.
The closest one I see is Dilettante
insanely
Mocha
good.
on Northeast 8th Street in Bellevue.
So that's pretty straightforward. The screen, it's all what you expect from Apple CarPlay. It works fine, it's plug-in, nothing fancy. In terms of terrain mode, there's several options. There's normal, grass, gravel, snow, mud ruts, and sand. Those alter the functionality of the traction control systems, as well as engine output and steering feel. It doesn't do a heck of a lot more because this vehicle doesn't have a lot more to offer. It's not like a Raptor with a laundry list of off-road features. This is just a regular Ranger that's been enhanced. And enhanced it has been, because we also have trail control, and then we also have an electronic rear locking differential with a push of a button down there. Of course, the transmission itself is a part-time 4-wheel drive. Drive around town in 2 high. When you're on slippery surfaces, you can go to 4 high. If you have more challenging surfaces, then you go to 4 low. The automatic is a 10-speed, which is, I think, the most speeds in the class right now. The seats here are pretty comfortable. They don't have a ton of lateral support. The soft surface here is a little slippery on the sides, but I think it'll be just fine for truck duties. Now, there is a mishmash of different qualities here. I mean, that's fine. This metallic looks pretty nice. This surround on the small infotainment screen, that's a little on the cheap side. But moving down, we do at least have aircon with regular push buttons, as well as volume and tuning. And then below that, we have 12-volt sockets. And then below that, we have USB. There is no charging pad in this vehicle. I do get 2 cup holders though, and a proper old school handbrake. Look at that. These are great for like in the mountains, and a little slippy slip in the back. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, this isn't too bad. I mean, it's a truck. You don't expect anything too fancy, and you don't get anything too fancy either. The steering wheel is wrapped, and it does have some cross stitching down there, but it's nothing particularly fancy. We do have integrated controls for managing the screen up here, and then we also have stuff for volume and vehicle setup shortcuts. Truck info does indeed have an off-road mode. It is the tiniest screen I can see, but I can at least read the numbers. It shows steering angle, vehicle angle, and power distribution. I guess it has everything that we need. We've looked at the inside, we've looked at the outside. I say we now take it for a drive, and we are going to drive. Yes, we are. We are driving out to our test course. This is the first truck we're going to take on it. I hope it survives. So far I've driven about 25 miles here, and I'm averaging 19.7 mpgs, which is right in there with the estimated 19 as determined by the EPA. Of course, I've been driving between 65 and 75 miles an hour. I would probably do even better if I kept it, between 55 and 65. There's a couple of things that do bug me about this truck though, specifically the headlights. They are halogens. You're spending mid $40,000 and you're getting halogens? That is absurd in 2021. Even the 4Runner has moved to LEDs, as has the Tacoma. So that's kind of a misstep. Also, the gauge cluster is nice looking, but it just doesn't look very modern. That little screen is so tiny. And then there's these aux switches, which they really look aftermarket. I expect a manufacturer integrated aux switch set to look a little bit better, maybe put it up here, but to put this big capsule right here, it just seems like wasted space. Especially, 90% of people are never going to use those. I guess for those that do, it's nice to have them right there, but I don't know, it just seems kind of a bit like an eyesore to me. Now on the freeway, this does have adaptive cruise control. Let's go ahead and set the speed, and we'll set target for a little over the existing speed limit. So that way we'll be pacing the vehicle in front of us, which I assume is doing the speed limit. And it also has lane detection, but this isn't an autopilot system. Like if I let go right now, I would just veer right off the freeway. You don't want to do that. This really will just notify me and maybe give me a little bump that I am about to exit the lane. It's not going to steer for me. It's not going to keep it centered. So in that case, it's not very modern. Oh, yeah, I can feel it bumping in there. It's bumping, but it's not going to hold it. And that's okay. On a truck like this, you really don't expect autopilot, at least not yet, maybe in a few years. The adaptive cruise control, however, works just fine. It detects vehicles in front of me. I haven't driven it in inclement weather yet, and I can't just make that happen. So I can't really speak to how well it works in bad weather, because some of these systems just kind of throw in the towel when it gets too wet out. Cruising is really nice. I mean, it's quietish in here, quietish. We are with all-terrain tires, so those aren't going to be the most silent on a freeway, but I think it's actually rather pleasant. Transmission's quiet, engine's quiet. The biggest noise is there's some wind noise buffeting off of these mirrors, and then I'm hearing the tires a little bit too. So I determined this is actually pretty good for cruising. Now let's jump off the freeway and onto side roads. And then after that, we're going to get back on the freeway and head out to our test site in Eastern Washington. Because this doesn't have a full-time all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive system, I'm not going to be driving normally in four-wheel drive at all. I'm going to keep it in 2 high. If I do go to 4 high or 4 low, that engages the transfer case, which will then bind the wheels when I'm turning. You don't want to do that. That causes a lot of stress to the drivetrain. It's just not good for the truck. So day to day, I'm driving in 2 high. Whew. Now, the transmission here is, of course, a 10-speed automatic. I don't know of any other trucks that currently offer a 10-speed, and it does a pretty good job. Now, there is no manual override. There's no paddle shifters. Actually, there is a manual override. It's a little button down here. I always forget that exists. And with this, I can toggle through the gears as necessary. However, I find that just around town, it does perfectly fine picking its own gear. I can go into a sport mode if I want it to hold revs higher. It scoots. It definitely scoots. The suspension on this isn't particularly modern. We have leaf springs in the back. And one reason that they stuck to leaf springs, because that is still what you want for towing and hauling. And they didn't want to affect the towing and hauling capability of this truck by going with some fancy coil spring setup in the back. So we get the old wagon style suspension back there. We do get springs up front. It is a little bouncy. It is a little rolly. It kind of rebounds off of things a little bit. Not my favorite suspension setup. But I can see the point, and if you want to buy this truck for actual hauling and towing, you will appreciate that. But how does it do with a 0 to 60? Let's find a fairly dry patch of cement. I'm going to put the transmission into sport. There's really nothing else to do here except mash the throttle. So 3, 2, 1, go. Slow to start, and boom, it hits at 35, 100 RPM. It starts to kick it up, and we're at 7.25 seconds. That's pretty quick for a truck. And with that, let's jump on the freeway and we'll head out to our test site. So our first obstacle here on the course is what we call the Rattler. This is a rock road that is comprised of 4x8 rock as we're going up an incline. This emulates some of the forest roads that you'll find around the Cascade Mountains. It is a rougher road, but this would be a legitimate road in some parts of the Northwest. Now, there's a couple good things going on here with this vehicle. First off, it is slightly higher at 9.7 inches than a standard Ranger. It also has underbody protection. And of course, I should probably put it into 4 low. So let's put it into neutral, 4 low. I'm not going to put on a terrain mode yet. We'll play with that when we hit the next course. See, now we're in 4 low. Oh, and I'm just spinning my wheels. Are we not in 4 low? No, we're not in 4 low. Oh, because I hit the terrain management. I went back to normal, so it actually shifted back to too high. Now we're in 4 low. I'm going to go into drive. Now we should be able to climb on up the rocks. We have not aired down the tires, and the reason for that is manufacturers typically do not like us to alter any of the specifications of the vehicles as they are delivered. So we are not. These are, however, Grappler all-terrain tires, and they should do just fine. If I do kick up a rock, there is underbody protection to help guard the soft bits on the underside of the truck. Now the suspension here is using leaf springs in the back and Fox shocks in the front. It's a little bouncy, and we're taking it real slow because we don't want to get a puncture here. These rocks are a little on the sharp side. We definitely have the clearance that we need. Haven't heard a single ding yet. And now we're going to climb up the steep part. Okay, no problem. Now, I think we'll really start to see problems on that test when we start bringing crossovers up here. Okay, as the rock ends, the steepest climb begins. Let's take a look at the gauge cluster here and see exactly how steep this is, according to Ford. 12 degrees, 13 degrees, 14 degrees. Cut right, and up we go. The final ascent to the peak. And that was pretty easy, but you kind of would expect it to be because this is equipped with all-terrain tires. It has plenty of clearance, and it also has a 4 low transfer case. In lieu of a hill descent control system, this vehicle actually uses a feature called trail control. Now, trail control is like an off-roady version that also adds power when necessary. Right now, I'm going to use it as a hill descent control system. So I'm in drive. I can pick my miles per hour by using the cruise control set buttons, and then I just lift my foot off the brake and we roll down. Now what this does is it will apply braking to each individual wheel as necessary to keep us straight as well as slow on the track. So I'm at 1 mile per hour now. I can increase that in half-mile increments, which is really nice. But I'm just going to keep it about 2, I think. We're at a 15-degree angle here. Great. Now we're going to move on to the more challenging test. We call it the Sidewinder. Driving up a rock road, that's one thing. Hill descent control, lots of crossovers will do that. But you'll pick a vehicle like this with the Tremor package to be able to tackle stuff like this. The ditch and the log crossing. Okay, so first we have a ditch, but I can't see where the ditch is because there is no forward-facing trail cam. That is I think a serious omission on anything that purports to be an off-road ready machine. However, I am in 4 low. Let's turn off terrain modes. Let's just go to standard. So go to normal. Oh, and it's shifting me back to 2 high. That's annoying. So this is just in 4 low at this point. I have no other features turned on. We're gonna hit the ditch. I'm gonna have to just feel it out because I have no terrain system. Now, this does have pretty good articulation, so we should be able to reach down and grab some of that dirt that helps move us forward. You'll see quite a difference when we finally take some crossovers up onto this course. So far, just in 4 low, no special features. Crossing the logs. Usually this last log is a tricky one. Okay, okay, we're obviously slipping a lot, so I am going to lock that rear diff, enable the rear locker, and now let's see the difference. Still having issues. Let's back up a little bit. We get a little momentum into it. Ooh, that was a little harder to do than I expected it would be. Well, it's okay. Next, we have the really steep climb. This is going to be tough. So this next section is the most difficult of the course. This is a very steep climb, and we've dug out ruts on the left and the right to help, I guess, remove traction. Additionally, the surface is very, very soft. It's almost like sand, like a very fine sand. We're definitely putting to the test both the traction control systems as well as that rear locker. We're still in 4 low, rear locker is on, and away we go. If we start to get hung up, then I will enable the trail management system, but I will not use it unless it is necessary. Okay, this is where articulation will also be helpful. If we can reach down and grab some soil, that will be very helpful. So far, just dust. So I have it set for 4 low and sand. We'll see if that makes any difference. We're at an 18-degree climb right now, and I have no traction on any of the wheels. And we're just seeing if the software will help us here. I think I'm just digging holes. You know, the Jeep Cherokee made it up this. The Cherokee L even. This is where old-fashioned lockers and stuff aren't all great. You sometimes need a little bit more. Come on! So let's see if mud rut is going to help us out here. Now we're still in 4 low. I have the rear locked, and let's go forth. I can hear things locking and moving, and it's trying not to slip. Oh my gosh, this is not making it. This is nuts. I didn't think this would be that hard. I mean, I knew it would be hard, but that's the whole point of this hill. Oh man, it is not happy. I mean, how fast do I have to go up this? I got to be really careful because it's a tight turn and a ditch on the outside when I get to the top. Up we go, up we go, up we go. Ah! Oh boy, momentum saves the day, and I can't see a thing because it's completely covered in dust. Okay, it's now a day later, and I am back with my 4Runner. Now I'm bringing the 4Runner out not to compare it against the Ranger necessarily, but more to compare it against the course. See, we built these roads probably a couple weeks ago is when we got most of them roughed in, and we've been running several vehicles up them, this vehicle included. So I was really curious if the course was now too difficult, not just for the Ford Ranger, but also for the vehicle that we ran up at first when we were designing it, and that was this 4Runner. So the 4Runner here is back to make sure that the course isn't too hard. So don't think of this as, oh, Ranger versus 4Runner, nobody's going to compare those two, or hey, those guys are just hating on Ford again. No, actually, I want to give Ford the benefit of the doubt because so far we've only run this 4Runner, a Grand Cherokee L with a 120-inch wheelbase, and then we ran the Ranger up, which has a 128-inch wheelbase, and now there's this 4Runner with a 110-inch wheelbase. And I'm curious now, is this course chewed up too much to make it too difficult. So let's find out. Now, the surface here is super soft. This is very soft dust. It's hard to explain just how soft this is. And there are, of course, small boulders in it as well. So right now I have the vehicle in 4 low. I have the rear diff locked, and that's it. It's very similar to the way that we took the Ranger up. And I'm going to try to maintain close to the same line, but it's a very tight course, so it's really hard to come up with a completely different line. Okay, I'm having issues here. This is exactly where the Ranger was having issues. Now, we are on different tires, but both the vehicles had all terrains. Okay, I'm getting stuck in exactly the same spot, so that's good, right? That means that the course is a little harder than when we first designed it. But now I want to try one of the party tricks of this 4Runner, and that is crawl control. Crawl control is more than just pushing on throttle or pushing on brake. It actually will shift power around the system and then do some really hard shaking to try to get you through difficult and very challenging situations that you might not be able to get out of otherwise. So let's go ahead and put it into crawl control. I'm going to put it in speed number 2. This doesn't go in speed increments, it goes in like levels. So this is level 2. I'm not doing anything. I'm just letting crawl control pull me up. And it's pulling me up. Crawl control is amazing. It really is amazing. And I don't mean to make this episode be about crawl control, but did you see how easy that was? I was stuck. Now, granted, I could have, throttled it in and gotten it up like I did with the Ranger, but that wasn't the point. I was curious how, if a vehicle could get up by its own power and not rely solely on momentum. I think we have now seen it is possible. So that is a very difficult situation, but it takes more than just a rear locking differential to get up it. So I think that's going to be fun to test with all sorts of different vehicles. However, not everything will make it up there, but I still want to take a lot of vehicles over the logs, so I'm going to build a bypass. So basically, if things can't make that hard cut, they can at least go straight. Okay, now let's see how Ford's version of crawl control, which is called trail control, may not be as fancy, but let's rewind back to a couple days ago and see how that worked out. So now I'm going to put it into drive. I have not locked the rear diff. I think I will lock the rear diff, and I'm just going to let it drive for me. I have to set the MPH. So let's set it for 2 miles per hour, and we'll see how well the electronics deal with this climb. Can it do better than me? Let's find out. Whoa, oh, okay. Let's get some momentum. Let's increase this speed. Let's go to 4. Fine, let's see. What does this do? Foot's not on the gas. I'm just hovering over the pedal in case I need to make a last-minute adjustment. Keeping the wheels as straight as possible. And I'm just digging. Am I digging myself into oblivion? Oh, we're making progress. We're making progress. Kind of, sort of, not. Are we making it? Are we making it? Come on, row your boat gently down the dust cloud. I'm going to increase the speed now to 5. And we'll go wide here. Man, this is just having a heck of a time. Row your boat. Keep my fingers on the outside of the wheel. Come on! Thank you for subscribing. Please hit that like button, and we'll see you again right here in a few days. I guess I live here now.